Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Thursday, June 2nd, 2022, and tonight I'll be sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all of the episodes of the podcast, along with links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page, which is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions for shows, or if you have stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or others you trust. Happy to share those on the show, either by reading them or having you join me here. And thank you all, as always, for listening and for being here. Whether you're here for the live streams or you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds. So that covers. So I guess I can get going. Um, so let's see here. Story. Okay. So this one says, I've always believed in ghosts, but never had a paranormal experience. I'd go ghost hunting as a kid and try to investigate graveyards and abandoned buildings, but never found anything. So in theory, I wanted to believe, but because I hadn't seen anything myself, I had my suspicions. Until I worked at this old Irish restaurant. The restaurant in question was located in Massachusetts and is hundreds of years old. The downstairs is a bar restaurant, and the upstairs is used as a function hall for weddings and events. I began working there as a server full-time in the winter of 2015. There's a lot of old buildings in MA, so it wasn't out of the ordinary. It has the classic creaky floors and old feel to it. Within my first 2 days of working there, I heard one of the older servers talking about the ghost upstairs, which obviously made me look around and go, "This place is haunted? Tell me more." This server had been working here for years, and she was older, and she wasn't super keen to talk about this. She had a matter-of-fact way of answering my questions. She said that, yes, there's a presence upstairs, and she just deals with it. When I pressed her for info, she said sometimes when she goes up there to get something, she'll hear little kids playing or running around when there's no one there. And just said she has seen a small child in the corner of her eye before. But she wouldn't give me much more. Well, now I was interested, so I started asking all of the servers about it. And they were all like, "Oh yeah, upstairs is haunted." I had only been up there a few times with someone else during the daytime. Definitely creepy, but nothing particularly strange. But after hearing stories from other servers, I needed to go up there. One of my friends worked as the bartender, and sometimes when she was closing, her boyfriend and some of his friends would come in and sit at the bar while she finished up. So one night, it was a Sunday, and I was the closing server, and she was the closing bartender. I was finished for the night, so I was having a drink at the bar, and her boyfriend and two friends came in to join us. We started talking about the ghost upstairs, and they agreed to go with me. Now, the way this place is set up is when you walk in the front door, there's a small reception area with two giant wooden barrels where we stack the menus. The menus are thick, heavy leather books, basically. This is important for later. Then you walk down a few stairs and enter the dining area. The bar is a big oval in the middle that has seating all around. The stairs go up. The stairs that go up are directly to the right when you enter the front door. So her boyfriend and two of his friends and I proceeded to go upstairs while she, the bartender, stayed at the bar. There was also a regular customer there with her drinking, and he stayed at the bar. We went up and the lights were off, but we had our cell phone flashlights. There's normal restaurant music playing on the speakers at a normal volume. Just classic background music. We're walking through in a tight group, just exploring between the tables. It is absolutely creepy. I don't know how to describe it other than the air was heavy. We were talking amongst ourselves and making jokes like, "Where's the ghost?" and "Hello, Mr. Ghost." We were walking through and we were kind of wondering if there wasn't anything there. But then the music started getting louder. And at first we thought, it's obviously our friend downstairs doing this to be funny. But then it kept getting louder, blasting so loud that it hurt our ears. Not funny. We all started sprinting for the stairs and came running down. We ran into the dining area and asked, "Why did you put the music so loud?" And my friend was standing in the middle of the bar, looking at us like we're insane, and she said, "What are you talking about?" And we said, you just put the volume of the music up to scare us, but it was so loud, it hurt." And she looked at us and said, "The music control is over there." And she points all the way across the restaurant to a box on the wall and says, I haven't moved. I've been standing here closing my register." The regular at the bar confirms that the bartender didn't move. So now we're all riled up, talking about how scary that was, and how obviously the ghost didn't like us. We were all sitting around at the bar discussing what happened, and the regular was telling us how he's heard story about the upstairs ghost over the years. And he said, sometimes when you talk about it, it makes it worse. All of a sudden, a stack of menus falls to the floor. The heavy leather book menus were all the way over at the door. A whole stack of them tumbled over. About 10 to 12 menus. We're talking several pounds of books. The door was closed. There was no wind. And these things were heavy. We all just stared at each other, and we asked the bartender, "Are you done closing the register yet? Time to go." It was wild. That was my only real encounter with a ghost. I stopped working at that restaurant not long after, but I would love for our paranormal crew to go in there one day. I now believe these things exist. So, the music happening could be maybe some kind of malfunction, possibly. Uh-oh. Are we not working here? Let me see here. Just checking on something here. Looking at the chat. And okay, thank you. Yeah, so the music the music going up could have been um a technical glitch possibly, but the menus going off of the barrels that could possibly be something. Um and So I don't know. That was a really something. It's also the timing of that was something else as well because it had the menus seemed to move um right after the customer that was there talked about how things got worse sometimes when there was people talking about the ghost that was there. So yeah, neat story there anyway. But anyway, so that's the first one, and I've got another 5 to go. And okay, so let's see here. I'll go to the next one. This one says 2 things have happened to me in one day today. Both I am unable to explain. Excuse me. I'll start by saying, as the first one happened, I was home alone, but didn't know that. After waking up, I went downstairs to get a drink. After being in silence for a good 3 minutes, I heard my sister and her friend laughing upstairs. Her friend is around all the time. I didn't think anything of it, as, again, I was unaware of being alone. I took my drink, I'm guessing they mean of water, and went back to my room, but made a stop at my sister's room to ask where our mom was. My sister wasn't there. Okay, weird, I thought, and I checked her location online. She was at her friend's house, which is an hour drive away. I proceeded to look around the house to see who else was in, but there was no one. I am certain that I heard her. This one happened to me about 20 minutes ago. I was making a coffee in the kitchen. My sister and a friend were sitting on the couch in the living room. As I was making my coffee, I heard footsteps and felt a presence behind me. Thinking it was my sister, I asked, "Do you want one as well?" I heard her calling me from the living room. "What?" she asked. And I turned around, and there was no one behind me. I went to tell her not to scare me like that, and both her and her friend looked at me as if I was crazy. I knew they weren't the ones to come in the kitchen, because I would have heard them get off the couch, which is leather and easily audible from the kitchen, if you were to move on it. Paranormal or not? So, that's where that one ends. The voices of people that you know, that's always a tricky one. Um, since it wasn't actually anyone talking directly to the person, I wonder if maybe it was just a residual and or time um, anomaly there where the voice from another point in time was coming through, and it just showed up that morning. The presence behind them, the writer, that one I don't know. Again, I guess it could be something similar, possibly. But yeah, that's 2 experiences in one day. I wonder how often that happens in that location. Um, so So yeah, I thought that was a neat one as well. But seems like that's almost your typical kind of haunted house kind of thing. So um, next one here. Let's see here. Okay, this one says this is not my own encounter, but a friend's that I thought was fairly intriguing. My friend lived on a farm in one of those worker houses because he wasn't exactly the most financially stable person. And his dog decided to run all the way down the dirt road, so my friend chased after it. He couldn't catch the dog, and it beat him to his house after they had already reached the end of the road. So this left my friend alone on the road next to two huge pastures on both sides. It was about 6 p.m., according to him. When he was walking back home, he turned to one of the pastures and stared at what seemed like a glowing door, just standing alone in the pasture. It was pitch black everywhere else. He told me he didn't understand why, but he just couldn't resist the urge to get closer and stare at the door. It didn't make a sound, it didn't move, and when he blinked, it was gone. When he finally returned home, it was 7:30 p.m. He had been out there for an hour and a half, and it had seemed like time skipped a beat. So that's where that one ends. Um, Doorways. Uh, that's uh, that's a really amazing one. Um, yeah, that's haunted house. Yep. Um, but um, but yeah, so just a doorway in the middle of a field like that. That is really amazing in a way. I wonder. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend ever going into a random doorway, but that appears in the middle of a space without a frame surrounding it. But it just does make me wonder, where did it go? And then what happened during that missing time? So really, really strange story there. But I don't know. That goes back to actually it goes back to something I was talking about last night. Um, in fiction, some books, especially in the Stephen King Dark Tower series, there are doorways that they're in um, they're portals to different locations, but they're only one way, and so it just makes you wonder if that was some kind of portal that he found that was maybe just temporary, or somehow it was there for who knows how long, and maybe this person was just able to notice it at that time for some reason, and then wasn't, or it went away. Um, so yeah, that's a neat one. That made me think of that. The doors in King's Dark Tower series, portals there. So, but let's see here. I'll go on to the next story. Stairs in the woods. Yeah, yeah, that's a whole other thing too. May have to do a show on that at some point too. I know. Um, APOC shared a bunch of articles with me, and I have to look into that more. That can definitely be an episode at some point. So, but yeah. So that for a future show. Um, so this next one says the story is pretty old. I believe that I was maybe 12 or 13 when it happened. One night, my mom and I wanted a late night snack. We live in a one-story house, since it's a flat, so every room is on the same level. I was in the kitchen with her when she said she had to go to the bathroom. A couple minutes later, she walks back. Uh, when she I lost my place. She walks back, which is through the living room. Okay, that didn't make sense to me. And I saw a giant blue white orb coming behind her, and I saw her face go pale and shocked. And mine did too, apparently, because we both asked at the same time what was wrong. A day later, I confessed to my mom what I saw since I'd been raised with the paranormal, and she would believe me. Again, she went pale and told me that she saw somebody behind me, too. She had never seen a spirit so clear. It was my uncle that had passed away a couple of months before that. He presented himself so detailed that it almost looked like he was alive, she said. He was basically my best friend and died very young, so it made sense for him to stand behind me. But I still wonder what the orb was. Is it possible the orb was also him? I'm not sure if spirits can split themselves into two, and we saw two separate things at the same time. So that's a good question in terms of what did they see? What did they each see? Um, really it doesn't really go into more detail. APOC, sorry. Um, APOC was asking how big. Um, but yeah, the writer asks a good question at the end there. Was that the one spirit that was just showing itself to them each of them in a different way, different location, or were there two separate beings there? And of course, I can't say. I don't know. But neat story anyway. So, especially since it happened at the same time. So, but yeah, there are stories of people seeing loved ones at the same time, spirits of loved ones at the same time in different locations. So, if that can happen in locations that are far removed from each other, not in the same building, then I guess technically it would make sense that it could happen in a way in the same location. Um, but again, that's just based on what I've heard before. So yeah, neat story there. We've got two more to go. So this one says, back when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I would experience doors closing on their own and very cold spots. We lived in Texas, so it would never get that cold. And this one morning, when I woke up early, I was going down the stairs, and it was probably 4 or 5, and I looked up because I thought I heard my mom getting up. My dad was downstairs, and I saw a tall girl with long hair, broad nose, and behind her was a dog, which looked to be a golden retriever, and behind the dog was a cat. They all were in a line, following the girl. The line was going to the space between my bedroom and my sister's bedroom. They were also like a mist or a fog, but I could see features. Being the 5-year-old that I was at the time, I ignored it and thought I was just seeing things and went downstairs. But years later, now that I think about it, I very well remember seeing it, and I truly believe it was a ghost or something paranormal. I had a dog that had died recently around that time. Cats were all over the neighborhood and could likely be walking around the place if it did it when it was alive. I guess I mean the cats. And the girl could be anyone who had passed in the area or chose to stay there in the house. That house definitely had an eerie feeling to it. We moved out in 2017, though, and I haven't experienced anything like it since. So that's quite the sighting. Uh, a child and a dog and a cat. Um, yeah, this is why interviews are sometimes good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Um, but that's either three apparitions or one, and so that's quite the sighting. Like I said, at least it didn't seem threatening. I wonder if what was going on there. Um, the fact that they were heading basically for the wall makes me wonder if it wasn't someone that was from that time. Um, but I don't know. That's a neat little story there. I like that it was nothing really terrifying. It was just a kid and possibly their pets. So, so neat story. But but yeah. So I have one more left here, and I'll get right to that. Let's see here. Okay, this is my first post online on this website, so please bear with me. Growing up, I experienced a lot of paranormal activities. I'm unsure whether these were real experiences or just my child's mind making up illusions. One particular ongoing interaction stood out to me. I'm 20 years old now because I still lay awake at night trying to make sense of it. When I was around maybe 5 to 7 years old, these two kids would visit me. They seemed slightly older than me, maybe 9 and 10 years old. It was a girl and a boy. I shared a bedroom with my sister, who would always fall asleep before me. They came soon after she would fall asleep. They would ask me how my day was and how I was. Every night before they left, they would give me a ball of dim light. I couldn't feel it, but if I put it between my hands, it would stay there. But when I would move my hands away, it would disappear into the dark room. They would tell me not to tell anyone they were seeing me. This went on for what felt like several years. It was the same routine every night. I began anticipating their visits and the pretty orb of light. The last time I saw them was when they visited me and had the standard conversation, but they followed it by saying, "We have to go and won't be able to see you anymore, but we will see you soon." They gave me the orb of light, and I never saw them again. Today I think about it, and at the chance of the interaction being real. What was that orb of light? Why did they visit me? And why couldn't I tell anyone? Or what did they mean by they would see me soon? I hope one day I get an answer, and I wonder if anyone has ever had a similar experience. So there's another story with kids. Apparently kid apparitions or beings. Um, and I don't know. That one makes me think of some different shows I've heard about imaginary friends in a way that maybe turned out to not be so imaginary over time. um, even to the point where some people sometimes they would say to the kids that similar things. You know, I have to go away now. Um, but I'll see you again someday or something like that. So I thought that was a really amazing story. And then the thing with the dim light, I wonder what that was all about, and how did it stay between the writer's hands if they couldn't feel it and then fade, or could they feel it and they just didn't really describe it in the story, or what was all of that? What were the details on that? Um, so and so yeah, just a really amazing story. It's I really thought that was something else, just because, like I said, I've heard similar stories about that before. So it didn't seem like it was a scary experience at all. It is also amazing that this would happen. The writer's sister would they shared a room, and the writer's sister would fall asleep, and these two would appear after that. So I don't know, um, but amazing story there. So, but that's all for today. Tomorrow I'll be covering more paranormal news, and then we'll go from there. So thank you all for being here again, and I will talk to you all tomorrow night on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.